Okay, quick agenda. I'm going to go over the purpose of the act, define what public information is, some common exceptions, what counts as a request, because not everything you get asked you have to respond to, and where do these requests come from, some do's and don'ts, deadlines, and legislative updates. So the purpose of the act is to make sure that there is transparency within the government. It came about at a time where there was a lot of things being exposed. There was a stockbroker issue or something in Texas, and we were just trying to make it so that the government works for the people, and to make it so that you can find out what the government is doing. The act takes this very seriously, as it is the purpose. It mentions twice the fact that things are to be produced and unless an exception applies. So the presumption is that if it's public information, you gotta give it out. But of course, there are things that can't be produced, and we will talk about that. So public information is anything that is maintained, created by a governmental body or for a governmental body. So it could also be a private company that's working for the government doing something. That information can be subject to a request as well. And then it can also be someone who worked for the government. So we'll see an example of that. But what's important to note is that the substance of the information is more important than the actual medium that it's in. So it can be a text message on a personal cell phone if it's to do with the official business of the person. So here's an example from real life. An article I found said, last year, Seattle-based activist Phil Mochak requested text messages sent by Mayor Ed Murray to his staff. The mayor's press team responded fairly quickly, albeit in a fairly surprising way. Yes. The mayor's PR team apparently felt that the best way to do this would be to pull up the text messages on the phone, place them on a flatbed scanner, which, credit where it's due, did produce a responsive record. So, that's good customer service. Yes, were there better ways to do this? Yes, but at least it was done, and they gave the information, everybody's happy. Is it hard to read? Correct. Is there a whole PDF of these that unfortunately I saw? Yes. Some common exceptions. So, things that are related to ongoing litigation, civil or criminal, those are probably not going to be produced. And then things related to things subject to attorney-client privilege, trade secrets, things like that. The Act lists all these different exceptions, and you can go and look at it. And they're often added as time passes, we get more exceptions. But also important to note is that exceptions that are not necessarily listed in the Public Information Act can also be applied. So it's a thing to be aware of. Okay, so what counts as a request? A request has to be made in writing. It doesn't matter on whatever weird form it's on. The usual example is a napkin. I think it'd be great if someone sent it in on a paper airplane. It doesn't matter. It arrives. It's a question. It works. It doesn't have to cite the Public Information Act. However, there are limits. You can't ask for things that don't exist at the time you are asking for them. And you can't ask for things that would require extra research, or for the government to have to create something that doesn't already exist, like to compile what you're asking for in a chart or a graph. And where do these requests get submitted? There can be a TPIA portal website where they submit them. In person, it still has to be writing. They can't just whisper, and that doesn't count. It could be by mail or by email or fax. I don't know. I guess people still use that. So mail or email. Here's a new addition to this. So every year, October 1st, if you're a governmental entity that needs to deal with Public Information Act requests, you have to let the Attorney General's office know the mailing address and electronic address that you're the email address that you're designating as yours for the purpose of these requests. And they'll maintain a website where they have this information for everyone to see. And once you do this, then if it's an email, it needs to be sent there. So if they send an email to some random person who works for you, it's probably not going to count as a request. They should forward it and be nice and take it to where it needs to go, but it's probably not going to count. Okay, do's and don'ts. If somebody sends a request that's super duper broad and you have no idea what they're talking about, and it's like it's going to take literally 10,000 years to get everything they're asking for, you can call them and be like, hey, what were you thinking? This doesn't make sense. And that's a good thing to do. However, you cannot ask them why. Like, no matter how curious you are, like, why do you want to know if we know anything about spaceships or dinosaurs, whatever? Like, you can't. And then this is a big one. So I have heard complaints in real life from people I know who do this, that there's like a repeat player, like a customer who keeps coming back, and they just keep sending the same thing over and over and over, and you're losing your mind. At one point, you're like, I don't even care why, I just want to know why me. Like, why are you doing this to me? You still have to respond to those. No matter how stupid it seems to you, you still have to, and you should try to be respectful. Here's an example of what not to do. Okay, I'm going to squat so I can see. Okay, so Mr. Walter here has responded to an organization that asks for, like, they ask for a lot of these Public Information Act requests from state and federal, everywhere. And he says, I've written to you previously and advised that the information requested in your April Freedom of Information public records request is material that the does not have. Okay, yes. I repeat, the LaSalle Economic Development District does not have this information. Quit sending this to me. I do not have it. I would give it to you if I had it, and I would demand that you pay a reasonable expenses for doing so, assuming that you have people in your organization who can read, understand this. We do not have this material. I hope this position is clear on this. This person is losing their mind. Like, they're doing either they're extremely cranky and they just are like this, or somebody has driven them to madness. Do your best to not be this person. So deadlines. It's kind of like a pick your adventure situation. You're either going to say, yeah, this is stuff we can give out, and we're not worried about any exceptions. So you go, okay, we're not gonna withhold it. We're gonna give it to you. At this point, you gotta give it over promptly. Promptly, people get confused. Promptly does not mean 10 days. Promptly means, like, it depends on the facts. So if I have it in front of me, if I'm looking at it, I can't sit on it for 10 days. I have to give it over. But if it's something that's gonna take more time, and you don't have to give it over in 10 days if that's not possible. You don't have to do insane things. But you do have to let them know. On the 10th day, say, hey, it's going to take me X amount of time. You have to give a time and date when you expect for it to be made available. If you're not going to give it over, if you choose to withhold, you have 10 business days to tell them, okay, we're going to withhold. We've sent the Attorney General a letter saying, we think that these are the exceptions. Please give us an opinion. And then the process continues. Okay, this is very important. The 10 days are not usual business days. So when we count business days for the purpose of this act, we don't count the weekends, we don't count federal holidays, and we don't count city-approved holidays. So let's say it's sent on the 1st. You start counting on the next day. Oh, weekend, skip. Okay, and we got those days. City holiday, skip, weekend. Ta-da! It's not actually due until the 16th. So, yeah. Okay. However, this is a really fun little fact that I've been told people don't take advantage of as much as they should. When I say people, I mean cities. Can designate 10 days out of the year for holidays for purpose of PIA non-business days. So days where you do not have to count for the 10 days. And it could be anything. It can be anything you want. It doesn't matter. You just have to let them know, hey, this is one of our little business days. Woohoo! Okay, so I would like to take the time to advocate for what I think would be a really good day for this specific thing for cities to take advantage of. Festivus. Anybody know what Festivus is? Festivus for the rest of us? Huh? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Festivus is, shame on you, but we'll move on, we'll accept. Festivus has some great traditions. One of them is the airing of grievances, where you sit around and you tell the people you love everything that annoys them about you, that you've been holding, that you can just tell them without shame. Don't you think this would be great? Like, remember Walter from the letter? Walter would love this. This would be great. He wouldn't have to be cranky to the requester. He could just talk about it, get it all out. So I think that'd be a great day. Let's see. Here are some of my legislative updates. So like I said, exceptions are always being added, and that's something to look out for. One new one is that when it comes to election officials or people who work for them or people who volunteer, there is additional certain personal information that needs to be exempted. Here's another one. License plates now do not need to be confidential. You don't have to hide them if it's a video or a picture or whatever. You used to, I'm not sure if it was unclear before or if you used to have to, but now you don't have to. So in 2026, where'd it go? We would be able to uncover Kramer's license plate. Anybody know? No? Has no one seen Seinfeld but me? Am I like eight? Okay, look it up, guys. If you know, you know. I can't say it. It's inappropriate. Anyway, thanks, Tammy. All right. So, jokes aside, I've really gained an appreciation for this topic. I've learned a lot, and I've learned that it's pretty difficult to work for this kind of thing. And I do want to say thanks to everyone who does. And you're doing really important work. So one thing I learned is that when we finally discovered that in Flint, Michigan, there was lead in the water, there were, whistleblowers, and there were people and doctors who were trying to get that fixed. But one of the big things that helped was the Public Information Act request to the city, finding out that the city knew about this and they just weren't going to do anything. So it's really important work. And it is a true little American treasure. So thank you for everything.